CWA has given me the tools and the family to organize, speak out, and build collective power that stretches beyond the workplace.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Errol Minor is a vice president of CWA Local 3902, a departmental vice president in Birmingham, Alabama. He is also a member of the CWA National Civil Rights and Equity Committee and a host of the CWA's Hour of Power radio program on KYOK in Houston, Texas. Brother Minor, welcome to the Valley Labor Report. It's good to have you on.
Thank you so much, Jacob. It's good to be here.
I really appreciate you taking the time and appreciate what you're doing on KYOK in Houston, Texas. That's really exciting. Not very many union radio programs out there in the country, and especially not in the South. So glad to be able to connect with you on that basis. We don't have just too much time, but I wanted to start with your, how did you become a union member? Like, is this something that your parents were union members and you knew you wanted to get a union job, or how did that happen?
That's an easy answer, Jacob. Union is in my blood. Actually, my parents were presidents of their labor union. Both of them were educators. They were in Best Education Association, the Alabama Education Association, and the National NEA, National Education. And when I went to work, I automatically from day one signed up with CWA Communication Workers of America.
That is fantastic. Really exciting to hear, family tradition of unionism, especially in the South. And that's not as rare as people would think, right? I mean, I love saying this every time that I get the opportunity to. In the 1950s and 60s, 1 in every 4 workers in Alabama were union members. That is a higher union density rate than every state in the country right now. So it's not as rare as many people think. And so being a union member is one thing, but being really involved in your union is a whole other step, right? I mean, I listed off your titles. You're a departmental vice president. You're on a national committee with CWA. You host a union radio program. Why did you decide to take that step to be really active in your union?
Listen, unionization is very important. When you really take a look at the Communication Workers of America, CWA has welcomed a legacy of fighters who believe in the dignity of job and non-negotiable, especially for Black, Brown, LGBTQIA plus and marginalized workers. So why did I get more involved? I got more involved because silence was an option. And of course, as I stated prior, is that it's just in my blood. And after becoming a member of CWA, I saw that the connections between the struggles we face on the job and the larger civil rights battles happening in our community. So it was just a connection. And whether it is racial bias in hiring, unsafe working conditions disproportionately impacting workers of color, or attacks on diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives, I knew I had to act, and that was something that I wanted to be involved in. And further on down the road, CWA has given me the tools and the family, meaning other union workers, other union members, to organize, speak out, and build collective power that stretches beyond the workplace.
Right. And that's really, really important. I appreciate that and trying to underline that point, because it's not enough for us just to have power in our workplace, right? We really do need to, make connections to the community, build relationships and within the community, and build political power on top of union power. And so, talk to us about the radio program that you do in Houston. What is the, how did that start, and what are the goals of that program, and what kind of stuff do y'all talk about week to week?
Okay, I'm glad you asked. This program was just dropped into our lap. So it started on February 29th, which is a leap year. And so we've been on the air for 1 year. The CWA Our Power radio show talks of labor, human rights, civil rights, how it intersects on the airwaves. We use it to amplify the voices that often get left out of mainstream conversations. And this radio show is the brainchild and the baby of our international president, Mr. Claude Cummings. And then also it's led by our director, Angie Wells, which is over the human rights and health and safety for CWA.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
And do you have guests on this program, and what are the kind of guests that you have if you do?
Yes, we do have guests on the program, and I must also say it's not just me as being the host of the CWA Our Power radio show. We have other hosts there, Mr. Reginald Small out of Dallas, Texas, Micaiah Jones out of North Carolina, Timia Wiley also out of North Carolina, and then Miss Taquasion Atkins out of Phoenix, Arizona. So we have all of these hosts together. We bring up and talk about various labor issues, as well as those human rights stories that affect the marginalized communities all around. So yes, we do have guests, and they come on just like you have me on, and we're doing it by Zoom. So that's awesome. And so yes, we have a plethora of guests from all over.
And so, you've spoke some about, the importance of civil rights and fighting for marginalized groups within the union. Can you talk specifically about the goal of civil rights work within the CWA? Like, why have a National Civil Rights and Equity Committee? What is the purpose of that? And what are you trying to do through your work within that national committee?
Yes. So we're fighting for a union that is not only diverse in membership, but also deeply committed to equity and inclusion in its leadership and its priorities. And that means addressing systemic racism, fighting for accessibility, as well as challenging any anti-LGBTQIA policies and protecting the rights of all workers, regardless of immigration status, gender identity, or background. And civil rights work in the union is about creating a just workplace and a just world hand in hand.
For folks who aren't aware, CWA does put a big priority on human rights. It's something that, as a CWA member myself, I hear about and see, trainings and conferences and just work happening all over the country. In fact, Brother Errol Minor has been doing lots of implicit bias training throughout the South. I know he had a training recently in Huntsville with CWA members. Mm-hmm. And so I really do appreciate that. And really appreciate that work that Errol's doing and that CWA is doing. And you're right, Jacob, it is something that can be controversial among some members. But, as Dr. King said, it's always the right time to do the right thing. Yeah. And I think that's where our responsibility lies as unionists.
Yeah. How do you approach folks that that feel a certain type of way about this kind of work, about the diversity, equity, and inclusion? Every union has folks that kind of perceive themselves as being attacked by these types of things. And so how do you respond when somebody comes to you with a complaint about this kind of work?
Well, listen, Jacob, that falls up under implicit bias training. One of the things that I try to do when I make sure that I am teaching the implicit bias training, I look for signs that someone is very uncomfortable when we're talking about stuff. And I actually take the time to talk to them and let's work it out, because with these implicit bias trainings, they're in a small setting. So you have the time to allow people to ask those uncomfortable questions that are in the back of their minds. And so with the implicit bias training offered, it's an in-depth look at the unconscious attitudes and the stereotypes that affect our decisions and actions. And through real world scenarios, we have an open dialogue and reflection exercises. And what I have found out, we have more people that are enjoying the implicit bias trainings and the gender justice trainings, because it's giving them an opportunity to learn. People come with a heart that is open. I was just in Bluff City, Tennessee on last week, Monday and Tuesday, and it was awesome.
I appreciate that. Really, really excited that you're doing that work, and that's really important. And that we do give people a space to ask, some of those uncomfortable questions where they can ask them and they can get answers. And so, Brother Errol Minor, Departmental Vice President, CWA Local 3902, and host of the CWA's Hour of Power radio program on KYOK in Houston, Texas. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you so much, Jacob. Have a wonderful weekend.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project. And you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.